If you remember even half of these 90s movies, you're probably Gen X. Some are so weird they nearly ended careers. Let's see how many you actually recognize. Bet you can't get past 3. Brian De Palma made this movie with Nicolas Cage playing a corrupt cop in Atlantic City. There's a boxing match, the Secretary of Defense gets murdered, and Cage has to figure out what happened. The first 20 minutes looks like one continuous shot. It's not actually one take, they edited it to look that way, but you follow Cage through the entire arena in real time. They had this Steadicam operator Larry McConkey who'd worked with Scorsese and Tarantino, and the whole sequence is technically insane. It's pretty interesting to watch because you only see what Cage sees. Then De Palma rewinds and shows you what other people were doing at the same time, and the mystery starts making sense. You solve it with the detective instead of sitting there waiting for him to figure out what you already know. If you like peak Nicolas Cage insanity, this has some of his best. Samuel L. Jackson plays a famous black playwright who buys a house in Massachusetts. His white neighbors see him and call the cops assuming he's robbing the place. Police show up, realize they just racially profiled a celebrated artist, and freak out about how bad the publicity's gonna be. So they grab this criminal, played by Nicolas Cage, and tell him to break into Jackson's house and stage a fake hostage situation. That way it looks like they responded to an actual crime instead of just harassing a black homeowner. It's shot like a comedy. Jackson and Cage work well together, there are some funny bits, but really it's about racism in supposedly liberal white neighborhoods. These people think they're progressive, but they see a black man and their first thought is criminal. Jackson talked about this when the movie came out. He said both sides need to look at the assumptions they make about each other and what happens when you act on those assumptions. That's what the whole movie's really about. Andy Garcia plays an ex-mobster named Jimmy the Saint. He runs this weird business where dying people record video messages for their families. It's not making any money, so he's forced to go back to his old boss, Christopher Walken, and Walken gives him one last job. Jimmy gets his old crew back together, which includes Christopher Lloyd and a few other guys, and they try to pull it off. The whole movie has this ultra-stylized look. Violence, snappy dialogue, Tom Waits on the soundtrack. It's peak 90s neo-noir trying to ride that Pulp Fiction wave. And it kinda works. The plot's actually original, the characters are memorable, and Steve Buscemi shows up as this terrifying hitman. Roger Ebert called it an exercise in style, which isn't exactly a compliment from him, but if you're into Tarantino-style crime movies and you somehow missed this one, it's worth tracking down. Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans. Sandler's a drug smuggler, Wayans is his best friend, except Wayans is actually an undercover cop. Sandler gets arrested, and then Wayans has to transport him across the country to testify against this kingpin played by James Caan. Along the way, they're getting chased by hitmen and trying to repair their friendship after the whole betrayal thing. This movie has an 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is insane because for what it is, a buddy comedy action movie, it's actually really fun. The thing is, it came out right in the middle of Sandler doing Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, and critics just decided they hated everything he touched. But if you like Sandler's comedy style, Bulletproof's legitimately enjoyable. The friendship betrayal angle actually works. Like your best friend's been lying to you the whole time, and now you're stuck in a car with him while people are trying to kill both of you. That's a solid premise for a buddy comedy. Morgan Freeman plays a forensic psychologist whose niece gets kidnapped by a serial killer. He teams up with Ashley Judd, who's the one victim who managed to escape, and they work together to track this guy down. It's based on a James Patterson novel. For some reason, this movie got bad reviews when it came out. I don't understand why, because it's genuinely suspenseful and creepy. It's basically doing the Silence of the Lambs thing. Twisting mystery, psychological thriller, trying to get inside the killer's head, and it pulls it off pretty well. Freeman's the moral center of the movie, the audience's conscience. And Ashley Judd, this is probably her most memorable role, she's got real range in it, emotional and believable. The two of them have excellent chemistry together, so much so that they made another movie together a few years later called High Crimes. Sean Penn's car breaks down in the middle of Arizona. He's got no money to fix it, so when some guy played by Nick Nolte offers him cash to kill his wife, Penn starts considering it. Except then he meets the wife, Jennifer Lopez, and things get complicated. This is Oliver Stone doing neo-noir, and the cast is insane. Joaquin Phoenix, Billy Bob Thornton, Claire Danes, Jon Voight, Powers Booth. The script came from John Ridley, who later won an Oscar for 12 Years a Slave. So you'd think this would have been a hit, except it wasn't. The whole movie has this strange tone that's hard to describe. On the surface, it's darkly funny, almost like a parody of film noir, but underneath there's this serious story about assault and trauma. It's a bit like bluegrass music, upbeat and energetic on top and tragic underneath. So critics, of course, hated it. They didn't know what to make of the tonal shifts, and the movie got savaged. James Woods leads a team of vampire hunters funded by the Vatican. Their job is to stop the first vampire ever created from getting his hands on an object that would let vampires walk around in sunlight, which of course would be bad. John Carpenter directed this, and you can tell immediately. Everything's got his style all over it. The costumes are heightened and almost cartoonish. The production design is deliberately stylized, and the mythology he created for the vampires is completely unique. Carpenter basically took horror and mashed it up with a western, and somehow it works. The action sequences are super well choreographed. Characters get trapped in these hopeless violent situations, and you're actually rooting for them to survive. But the real surprise is Cheryl Lee from Twin Peaks. She plays a character who starts off innocent and friendly, then transitions into this terrifyingly hypnotic vampire, and she nails both sides of it. The range she shows in this movie is wild. Some people say Carpenter's work in the 90s couldn't match what he did in the 80s. Vampires proves that's bullshit. It's B-movie popcorn entertainment, sure, but it's a damn good version of it. Leslie Nielsen plays a violinist in Minnesota who gets framed for murder and has to prove his innocence while running from the law. This is basically Nielsen doing what he does best. There's visual gags, one-liners, just non-stop silly comedy. The script came from Pat Proft, who wrote Police Academy and worked with Nielsen on the Naked Gun series, so he knows exactly how to set up Nielsen's comedic timing. The movie spoofs everything, Mission Impossible, Titanic, but mainly The Fugitive. It's an all-out commitment to wackiness, with Michael York playing it completely deadpan alongside Nielsen's chaos. For some reason, critics destroyed it. Terrible reviews across the board. But if you're a fan of that style of comedy, the airplane style, the Naked Gun style, Nielsen delivers exactly what you'd want from him. It's dumb in the best possible way. A gang of outlaws robs a Mexican bank. Mid-heist, their leader realizes some of his crew have turned into vampires. Now they've got to finish the job while dealing with the fact that half the team wants to eat the other half. The sequel has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Of course, it's not nearly as good as the first, From Dusk Till Dawn, but it's still a fun mashup of crime movie and vampire horror. The movie keeps messing with who you're supposed to root for. These are terrible people doing terrible things, but you end up invested in whether they pull off the heist anyway. And the final shootout is genuinely explosive. Danny Trejo comes back as Razor Eddie from the first movie, and there's this character Earl McGraw who shows up here and then later appears in Kill Bill and Death Proof. One of those little Tarantino-Rodriguez universe connections. Demi Moore plays a psychic from North Carolina who marries a butcher and moves to New York. She works in his shop, helps customers with their problems using her powers, falls in love with a psychiatrist played by Jeff Daniels. Standard rom-com setup. Critics hated it. Moore herself doesn't like it, but it's actually pretty good. Moore's really charming in this. She's sweet but not annoying, funny without forcing it. Everyone in the cast gets their own comedy and personality. Her character helps people figure out their lives, and the whole movie has this warm, uplifting feel to it. It's not trying to reinvent anything, it's just a rom-com doing what rom-coms should do. make you feel good, make you laugh a little, give you something pleasant to watch. And it does that well.